Some numbers, they just hit differently, don't they?
They really do.
Especially when you remember that behind every statistic, like the ones we're looking at today, there's a person, a life.
Absolutely, a whole story.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into something pretty heavy, but really important. The global landscape of suicide rates.
It's a topic that, well, precisely because it touches so many lives, really needs careful attention.
Exactly. And our mission here is to take these global stats and, really unpack them, give you a shortcut to understanding what's often a silent, complex crisis.
And the variations across the globe are quite striking.
They really are. Hints at something deeper than just where people live, I think.
Okay.
Let's unpack this.
Okay, so the World Health Organization, other global sources, they consistently flag suicide as one of the most pressing yet often hidden public health issues.
Pressing but silent, yeah.
Exactly. And it's so crucial right from the start to keep in mind that every single number we discuss represents a life, a family affected, a community impacted.
That's such an important grounding point as we get into the actual data. We're talking rates per 100,000 people annually.
Right.
So looking at the global picture, right at the top, the highest rate reported is South Korea with 26.0.
Wow. Yeah. And right behind is Lithuania at 24.4.
Then Kazakhstan, 23.81.
Ukraine at 22.4, and Slovenia rounds out that sort of top group at 18.09.
Here's where it gets really interesting, starting to think about the why. What are some of the factors that sources suggest might be driving these really high rates in places like South Korea or Lithuania?
That's the core question, isn't it? For South Korea, research often points towards, well, a combination of things. Intense pressure, academically and professionally.
A very competitive society.
Exactly. Plus, a significant social stigma around mental health that really discourages people from, reaching out for help.
Right. In Lithuania or Kazakhstan.
There, you often hear about factors like historical context, rapid societal shifts, maybe after the Soviet era, and ongoing economic disparities playing a role.
It's kind of staggering how those big societal forces can show up in these numbers.
It really is.
Okay, so moving down a bit into what you might call the middle tier, we find countries like Hungary, Belgium, Japan, Croatia. They're all reporting rates between 16 and 18.
Mm-hmm. And just for context, the United States is at 14.5.
Okay.
Then you've got a cluster of European nations, Estonia, Finland, Russia, Austria, kind of hovering between 13 and 14.
Australia's at 13.1. And then Iceland and New Zealand, both at 12.3.
Yeah, and interestingly, places like Norway, Sweden, Canada are just slightly lower than that 12.3 mark.
So when you look at this middle group,
Mm-hmm.
do any common threads start to appear, maybe socioeconomic things or cultural patterns that sources talk about, compared to the highest rates or even just among themselves?
It's a great question. It's still really varied, of course. But for many of these nations, you might see discussions around maybe increasing social isolation
Okay.
or persistent economic worries,
Yeah.
and also, crucially, the effectiveness and maybe more importantly, the accessibility of mental health services.
That makes sense.
For Japan specifically, you sometimes see links drawn to things like, well, intense work culture, long hours, maybe a cultural emphasis on stoicism.
Right.
Whereas, say, in Nordic countries, even with a high quality of life generally, some analyses mention things like, the long, dark winters or perhaps high societal expectations for self-reliance. It's complex.
It's clear the why is incredibly nuanced, even within these tiers. Okay, let's shift focus a bit Asian and Southern European context. The picture changes again, right? India's rate is 10.5.
Mm-hmm. And China's at 9.8.
Yeah.
Quite a bit lower than the top figures we saw.
Definitely. And then even lower in Southern Europe.
Yeah, countries like Spain and Italy, you're seeing figures more in the range of 8 to 8.3. So that highlights a pretty noticeable regional difference there.
Okay. And then Latin America seems like a bit of a mixed bag.
It is, yeah. Argentina's at 7.7.
Okay.
But then Brazil is quite a bit lower, 4.8, and Mexico even lower at 4.0.
Right.
And then finally, at the completely other end of the spectrum, we find these remarkably low rates. Pakistan is just 1.1.
1.1. That's
And Egypt is even lower, an astonishingly low 0.1 reported.
0.1. This is such a stark contrast to where we started with South Korea at 26. What could possibly explain that huge difference? Pakistan, Egypt versus the others.
It's a profound gap, isn't it? And the sources offer some really interesting potential explanations. In regions like these, factors often discussed include Very strong family and community support networks.
Okay, social fabric.
Exactly. Deeply embedded religious beliefs, which often really emphasize the sanctity of life.
Right.
And sometimes cultural taboos around even discussing suicide, which we should note can also lead to underreporting or just different ways data gets collected.
Ah, so data collection itself could be a
It
factor.
could be part of the picture, yeah. It really underscores how much cultural context shapes not just the reality, but also how it's recorded and talked about.
So if we try to connect all these dots,
Mhm.
looking at this huge range, what does it all mean for the bigger picture?
Well, what this deep dive really lays bare is this incredibly complex interplay of factors. These numbers, they're reflecting so much more than just geography, right?
Clearly.
They're revealing these unique cultural, social, and mental health landscapes in each society. You see the intense societal pressures, the stigma in South Korea.
Hmm.
You see potential echoes of historical change in Eastern Europe. And then you see possibly protective factors like strong community bonds or faith in places like Pakistan or Egypt.
It's not random.
Not at all. These numbers are like um, profound indicators. They tell us something about a society's overall well-being, maybe, and definitely its approach to mental health. The huge differences we see globally point to specific complex issues that really need a nuanced understanding, not some kind of one-size-fits-all explanation.
It really drives home that these stark global variations in suicide rates aren't just statistical noise. They point to these deep, unique societal factors, cultural, social, mental health challenges, all specific to place and context.
So maybe something for you, the listener, to reflect on. As you think about these numbers, what specific elements jump out to you? Is it socioeconomic pressures? Is it cultural norms around mental health, the strength of community ties? What might be contributing to such vast differences between nations? And what does that tell us about the bigger picture, about understanding the global human experience through this lens?